High in Northern California, Mount Shasta rises alone, isolated from other peaks, dominating the horizon like a silent, unmovable guardian. Its slopes are vast, steep, and often shrouded in clouds that appear and vanish without warning. For generations, the mountain has been more than just a natural landmark. Native American tribes, including the Wintu, Modoc, and Shasta peoples, regarded it as sacred, a living presence where the boundary between the physical world and the spirit world blurred. To them, the mountain did not merely exist. It decided who could tread its slopes, who could survive, and who would be returned to the earth in ways that defy explanation. By the 1800s, European settlers began exploring and mapping the area. Mount Shasta became a challenge to conquer, a place where the brave sought to test themselves. Trails were carved into its slopes and small camps dotted its foothills. For the first time, outsiders entered a domain that had been respected for centuries. At first, accidents on the mountain were seen as unfortunate but ordinary. Slips, falls, sudden storms, but patterns began to emerge that would unsettle even the most experienced climbers. Men vanished without storms, without visible hazards, sometimes within sight of companions. Families reported loved ones missing during routine hikes. Search and rescue teams combed the terrain meticulously, often finding nothing. Then weeks, months, or even years later, bodies would appear. Sometimes they were found near trails that had been walked repeatedly, sometimes beside abandoned camps, sometimes in open terrain that had been fully visible during earlier searches. This was no ordinary disappearance. In 1903, a group of prospectors set out to traverse the mountain during summer. Weather was clear, visibility perfect, yet one man lagged behind. Hours passed. When the group returned, he was gone. Days of searching yielded nothing. Weeks later, his body was discovered near a trail that had already been scoured. Coroners could find no explanation for how it had been missed. Experienced rescuers called it the mountain giving him back, a phrase they would repeat in hushed tones over the decades. The 20th century saw more disappearances, each similar in their impossible nature. Experienced climbers, hunters, and hikers all fell victim. Some returned with harrowing tales of losing hours or even days without memory of where they had been. Compasses spun wildly. Watches stopped. Phones died inexplicably. Dogs trained to track scents refused to follow trails that should have been obvious. Rescue teams reported sudden urges to retreat from specific areas without cause. Radios lost signal. Nothing was officially recorded. But insiders knew that Mount Shasta did not behave like other mountains. One widely reported incident in the 1970s involved a solo climber who vanished during a routine ascent. He was physically fit, well-equipped, and familiar with the terrain. Helicopters scoured the mountain from above. Ground teams combed every possible path. Dogs tracked the scent for miles. Days of searching ended with nothing. 3 years later, hikers found skeletal remains near a snowfield that had been crossed repeatedly during the initial search. Snowmelt was cited as the explanation, but those who had been part of the search knew better. The mountain had returned him. Survivors described the mountain in almost spiritual terms. Some report hearing voices calling their name calm, familiar, not panicked, guiding them unknowingly into dangerous terrain. Some recalled disorientation so severe that hours vanished from their memory. Others felt a subtle push, as if the mountain itself nudged them along a path they were not consciously aware of. Every account follows a similar pattern: absence, fearless exploration, inexplicable displacement, and eventual return or discovery. Scientific explanations abound, but none suffice. Altitude sickness, hypoxia, sudden weather changes, and treacherous terrain explain isolated incidents, but not decades of repeatable, documented disappearances. Geologists acknowledge anomalies in ground formations and unexpected avalanches, yet they cannot explain why bodies emerge in previously searched, open areas. Psychologists dismiss collective memories as coincidence, but patterns are too consistent to ignore. Mount Shasta's isolation intensifies the mystery. Standing alone, it creates its own microclimate. Clouds form rapidly. Sudden storms strike without warning. Yet even in clear weather, people vanish. GPS tracking, thermal imaging, and satellite analysis reveal strange anomalies. Coordinates fail to align. Devices malfunction. Time discrepancies appear. The mountain, it seems, operates on its own terms, beyond human control. Families of the missing often report dreams or visions of loved ones on the mountain. They describe standing silently, watching, waiting. These accounts are repeated in multiple families, across decades, reinforcing a sense that Mount Shasta interacts with those it claims in ways beyond science. Despite the danger, climbers and spiritual seekers continue to ascend its slopes. Some do so for adventure, some for research, others for personal spiritual journeys. They report the same feelings of awe, fear, and disorientation. Perspective bends. Distances are misleading. Slopes appear steeper than they should. The mountain dominates all senses, commanding respect without threat, yet hiding peril in plain sight. Mount Shasta is not malevolent. It is not benevolent. It is an entity in itself, indifferent, observing, and exercising subtle influence over those who enter. It tests, it watches, it returns. Some call it a warning, others a mystery beyond human comprehension. Its legend grows with each new climber, each new story, each new disappearance and eventual discovery. As the decades passed, Mount Shasta continued to claim its presence over those who ventured too far, too recklessly, or even with good intentions. Rescue teams began to notice subtle patterns, areas where compasses spun inexplicably, trails that led hikers in loops back to where they had started, and occasional thermal anomalies where no visible fire or heat source existed. Experienced climbers would report a sudden unease, a gut feeling that something was watching, assessing, deciding whether they should proceed or retreat. Many described it as an almost conscious force, not aggressive but undeniably aware. In the mid-1980s, a small team of researchers equipped with early GPS devices attempted to map trails across Shasta's northern face. Within hours, devices lost synchronization. Signal errors multiplied and several hikers reported losing several hours of time in areas they had traversed only moments before. Dogs trained to track scents refused to follow trails that should have been obvious. This phenomenon, documented quietly in internal reports, became known among local search and rescue units as the Shasta displacement effect. Officially, it was never acknowledged, but among seasoned climbers and rangers, it became a whispered truth. The mountain did not simply exist, it orchestrated experiences. Native American elders had long warned outsiders about venturing alone. They told stories of hikers hearing familiar voices calling their names, only to find themselves miles away from where they had been. Legends spoke of the mountain testing one's resolve, balancing the spiritual and physical worlds, and returning individuals when it deemed them ready. The elders described the mountain as a guardian of hidden knowledge, a silent teacher and an arbiter of fate. These warnings were often dismissed by modern adventurers seeking thrill or research. But over time, repeated disappearances lent credibility to the centuries-old beliefs. One particularly documented incident in the 1990s involved a group of 4 experienced climbers. They planned a multi-day ascent to reach a remote peak rarely visited. Clear skies, stable weather, and familiarity with Shasta's terrain did not prevent disaster. The climbers reported losing several hours, later realizing they had traveled miles in directions they did not consciously choose. One member experienced a vivid hallucination, or perhaps a vision of a familiar face calling him from the trees, guiding him toward a cliff's edge. Miraculously, the team returned with minor injuries, but the event left them shaken and deeply respectful of the mountain's unseen influence. As technology improved, efforts to understand the anomalies increased, moving in unpredictable patterns. Geologists confirmed that Mount Shasta contained complex underground, volcanic and geothermal structures. But even with these findings, they could not account for the repeated patterns of disappearance and delayed recovery. Scientific explanations failed to satisfy the combination of psychological, physical, and temporal anomalies reported over decades. The 21st century has not diminished Mount Shasta's mysterious reputation. Adventurers, spiritual seekers, and paranormal investigators continue to visit its slopes, often reporting experiences that echo those of earlier generations: lost time, strange voices, disorientation, and sudden shifts in weather or terrain. Each new account strengthens the narrative that Mount Shasta is not merely a mountain, but a living entity with its own rules and rhythms. Some visitors interpret these phenomena as tests of character, endurance, or insight. Others remain convinced of a supernatural force beyond human comprehension. Despite these stories, Mount Shasta remains a place of beauty, awe, and challenge. Its snow-capped peaks glisten in the sunlight. Rivers cascade down steep valleys, and dense forests cloak its lower slopes. For every tale of disappearance or strange phenomena, countless climbers, hikers, and pilgrims complete their journeys safely, often describing profound experiences of wonder, reflection, and spiritual connection. The mountain is mercurial, offering both danger and revelation, a duality that has captured the imagination of writers, filmmakers, and researchers alike. In conclusion, Mount Shasta's legacy is multifaceted. It is a natural wonder, a spiritual landmark, and a site of unexplained disappearances. Its story blends science, legend, and lived experience, creating a tapestry that continues to fascinate audiences worldwide. Those who have disappeared, returned, or observed the mountain's strange influence all contribute to a narrative that is both cautionary and captivating. For AI-narrated YouTube documentaries, the mountain provides endless material, stunning visuals, suspenseful storytelling, historical context, and the tension between human curiosity and nature's mysterious power. Mount Shasta stands as a testament to the unknown, reminding all who approach it that some forces cannot be fully controlled, understood, or predicted, and thermal scanning revealed heat pockets beneath the mountain.
Hey guys, if you liked the video, please like and subscribe my channel.